Alrighty, good morning. Doing the morning weather briefing, looking at some weather coming the next few days. It'll be really nice, like it has been. Not below average anymore, but more towards average. And compared to last week and last month and the entire summer, it has been very, very warm, especially in our inland bay valleys. Sacramento is on track in the next couple of days as July winds down to break its all-time monthly record for temperature. Now, when you break records in Sacramento and San Francisco, it's a big deal because those records go back to just after the gold rush. So the Sacramento, you break that record, it's been hot. The story the next couple of days, it'll heat up a little bit, but more typical average weather for this time of year. I think Friday it may bump a little above average, but the sea breeze will not get cut off. And the inland valleys will do what they do. They'll hit the mid-90s probably on Thursday and Friday. We'll see. I want to talk about the jet stream. I want you to understand this concept. If you can grasp this concept, you can move through the whole science of meteorology, understanding the most basic core idea. And the most basic core idea is hot and cold. Hot and cold. Equator hot, North Pole, South Pole cold, right? So at the equator, the air rises like a hot air balloon, right? Because the sun angle, and the Earth's round and the way it sits, but the sun angle of the air rises, it's hot, it starts to cool, it gets driven northward because it's looking for cooler to cool itself off. It's just nature going, it's too hot, can't manage this. So it goes further north and the air gets by the polar regions and begins to drop down, sinks, comes back to the equator. It's a feedback loop, right? And so that's a Hadley cell. And Hadley cells are around the planet. There's different various numbers. There's not a ton. I don't know how many. I think there's 8 of them. I can't remember how many Hadleys there are. But picture that circulation, right? So, and then the Earth spins, right? And as the Earth spins, everything in the northern hemisphere gets thrown to the right. So the warm, cold, Earth spins, everything gets thrown to the right. In the southern hemisphere, everything gets thrown to the left. It's the opposite, right? So the idea then is the Earth is a heat engine. When I talk about the jet stream right here, I'm talking about the division between this warm air and this cold air. And it's almost, when you see the jet stream, just go, oh, it's cooler to the north, it's warmer to the south. So then if we go here this week, I'll pop this picture out of the way. And as we go to this week, this high is building from the desert southwest. And so this is, oh, look, it's under the jet stream. Even though the jet stream is way up here, it's under it. And out here in the Pacific, there's a little trough. That's a cooler pattern. In the winter months, this makes a ton of sense, right? Because this really cold air drops down, sun angle's changing, it's cooler in the northern hemisphere, blah-de-blah. We can get into that some other time. But just know, this line, this jet stream divides the warm and the cold air. Once you know that, and if you really internalize that, it'll make nothing but sense to you in terms of how weather works. It works that way on a large scale, a small scale. I showed you the large scale, the macro scale, but it works like that on a synoptic scale too. It really does. Well, the land sea breeze is a small Hadley cell, if you will. The ocean's cold, the valley's warm. The warm air from the valley, onshore wind at the Golden Gate Bridge, right? So anyway, smoke north. This is the fire, the park fire. Let me see if I can pull this down here. There we go. There we are. Okay. Park fire smoke. Park fire, they're getting some pretty good containment on it. Hasn't grown that much. It is going to heat up here the next couple of days. So humidities will drop, temperatures will warm. We're not looking for a ton of wind. You can probably tell the wind direction on the fire based on which way the smoke is blowing. You got the Pedro fire down here. So now you're seeing smoke in the Central Valley. So any winds that start to come from the valley towards the coast are going to start to bring in some higher level smoke. So we'll keep an eye on that for you, and I think we will see a little bit of smoke as we get into Thursday and Friday. There is the fog along the coast. Here is the fire, park fire anyway, and you see the hot spots? Let's see if you've been looking at these maps. If you live up here, and you know who I'm talking to, Dwayne Awalt and Becky Potts, all you guys that live, my friends in paradise, but all you guys that live up in these hill zones, these are the hot spots on the fire. This is the fire scar area. There's a couple of hot spots on this lower end, but I suspect they're managing the fire as it moves out into the flats. Because again, this area has not burned in a long, long time. And so this area is hot and of concern. This area is hot, but it's not as much concern because it's really this is talk about one of the sparsest populated areas in the state. This is it. I mean, there's less. I mean, they've lost structures, unfortunately, but for burning over almost 400,000 acres, you've lost a couple hundred structures. It sucks, but it's not like if you were in a more obviously, if you were in a more populated area. So let's go look at the smoke forecast. This is, let me hit this button. This is going to be over the next 3 days. See where we are. I'll draw a little square. Here we are. This is smoke. If you're bothered by smoke, and many of us are, this is the plan. So you can see the smoke start to spread out. Darker areas represent the heaviest smoke, certainly in the fire zones, but you see the smoke sort of comes close to us and then works its way east again. And this is over the next 3 days. Then it starts to bump in a little bit as we get in towards Friday. So we'll see how this goes. But essentially, we've been very fortunate in terms of the smoke in the Bay Area the last few days, certainly, the last week or so, actually. So we can look at the current temperatures. This is today. This is right now. This is about 11 o'clock this morning. 84 in Sacramento. Let me see if I can grab this up for you right here. This is my favorite map in the whole world. Some days, because if you live somewhere and you're in Sacramento, it's like, God, it's pretty warm. It's 81 degrees. And then you go out to Point Reyes and it's 55 degrees. You're just like, wow, California's awesome. I mean, right, just the way that it produces, 40-degree spreads over 20 miles in terms of temperature. The winds are variable. So I guess when you're thinking fires, you think, okay, well, there's a south wind. There's a north wind. They're very light because of the one stick. There's a south wind. There's a northwest wind on the coast, as you'd imagine. So those winds, when I see it like that, you go, because if you're really going to if you're having a wind event, you're going to see all these guys going like this. And they're going to have multiple flags at the end. When you've got when winds like this, variable, they're generally light and they're moving around. The winds will come up this afternoon a little bit with the sea breeze, but it is not, we're not anticipating any real wind issues. So this is the air quality in the Bay Area. Looks pretty good. And up by the fire zones, you can see it isn't very good. And this is, they're measuring particulate matter size. They've found over the last many years that particulate size matters a lot, like wood smoke, because of the size of it. A good 2.5 microns can get into your lung and cause an infection. And if you have asthma or pre-existing conditions, as I have learned, it can be a real problem. So the smoke keeping the populated areas fairly okay. It's the smaller areas up around Bernie and MacArthur and Oroville and Paradise that are seeing the smoke. And out at the beach, you got great air quality. That's Great Highway. Looks like it's moving today. You've got the beach moving in terms of weather. In terms of, let's see what the weather's doing. 2 to 3 foot waves. The winds are 9 knots out of the south. So south wind out at the beach. Let's just go to the 5-day forecast. Let's do that. And you can see the 5-day forecast represents a pretty good pattern as we go into Saturday and Sunday. That top, look at that middle tier of numbers where you should look. So when you look here, you go, wow. That's most of us, right? That's Fremont, San Jose, Redwood City, right? Those are the big cities. These numbers represent the inland Bay Valleys. So I hope you're having a good day. I hope you continue to have a good day. I will see you back here most likely tomorrow.